So stay on the welcome screen because the show notes are on the welcome screen.
10-4. And we're
Greetings,
live.
humans. We are live on
Hello, everybody.
January 9th, 2025. We're Multiverse Live, episode 11. We've got our new friend, Tyrone Ellington from Rebirth of the Word. How's it going tonight, Tyrone?
Going good, pretty good. How about y'all? How y'all doing?
Not
Welcome
too
to the
bad.
show, Tyrone. It's great to meet you.
It's great to meet you. Great to have you on the show. We made a new friend that lives in the same state as us, which is pretty cool. It's a little housekeeping, like and subscribe, hit the notification button, all that good stuff.
How many platforms are we on by now, Dave? All of them or what?
We're on everyone but TikTok because we aren't communists. But no, I'm just kidding. But we got X, we got YouTube, we got Facebook, we got Instagram going, and Rumble. So we are live on 5 platforms right now. I just want to give a quick shout out to my boy Alex Christensen for giving me a new mic for Christmas. This stuff showed up in the mail. I was like, what? Either my sound was terrible or this guy loves me. But I really appreciate it. It actually inspired me to get a new camera as well. So we're rocking a new camera tonight. How was your guys' New Year? Tyrone, how was your New Year, man?
Man, it was pretty good, man. New year, man. New beginnings, new journey, new paths.
New paths. Yeah. Mike, how was your New Year, brother?
Oh, it's excellent. And this show is the new path that we started blazing down this trail a couple months ago. And look where we are today, having guests, doing a weekly live stream.
Don't it feel good?
Uh-huh.
Don't it feel good? Yeah. No, seriously, don't it really feel good? Like, let the people know it feels good, right? Like, people are listening to you. You know what I mean? Like, people are taking the time out of their day, which time is precious.
And we all
giving it to you guys.
We know at first it's mainly our friends and family, so we appreciate all you during our early times.
It's true, and it does feel good. It also feels good doing something fun that like I'm doing, that I'm creating, and we're creating. And it feels good to do something that makes me happy. I felt like I've been doing stuff that didn't make me happy for a long time. So let's get it.
Yeah,
All right. Well, we like to kick the show off with a little news and weather.
All right.
We live on a planet that's next to a star, and the star's basically got 2 things going on at all times. Put our faces back in there. The star, the sun, it's always sending out electromagnetic radiation towards its light, and also mass and forms of little particles. So this is the mass page. All is quiet on the solar front.
Yeah, we like to do a little solar weather, though, just because one of the leading theories by Dr. Robert Schoch, based on the Younger Dryas impact theory, is it actually not it's not an impact. Robert Schoch says it's a solar mass ejection, and that does happen from time to time on this planet. So we like to keep tabs on what the sun is up to.
Yes, that's right. So mass ejections from the sun, been quiet though. And also, oops, I unshared it. Electromagnetic radiation. This is where we get the auroras from. This KP index in green, that's just the basically level of disturbance of the Earth's magnetic field. So it's all safely in the green lately. So nothing much going on there.
Tyrone, you spend a lot of time thinking about the sun, my man.
It's funny you say that because I actually did an article on my website about the sun and being the first representation of what we would consider a god, right? Mm-hmm. Something we look up to, something that's the creation of life, something that gives life, something that can destroy life, So yeah, it's actually funny you say that. Yeah, I do think about that a lot. I think about what the sun is really meant for us and to us and stuff like that.
And your website's just literally rebirthoftheword.com, correct?
Yeah, rebirthoftheword.com. I started about 4.5 years ago with one article, Sumerians, the first civilization. And it was only because of I wanted to know what was considered the first civilization and why. I wrote about it, and because of that, I learned about numerous different religions and so on and so forth. And which guy gave me the opportunity to talk to all kinds of different people like Jeff Benner, a friend of Zachariah Sitchin's, Dr. Keith Chang. I've talked to so many different individuals trying to figure out the history and stuff. So yeah, think about bringing up the sun and all that other stuff. It's just my journey has been like one step at a time.
Well,
I
we're
was going to
excited.
ask you about Zechariah Sitchin later on the show, so we'll keep that posted for later. I'm not an expert in the Sumerian, but you seem to have looked into that more than me, so I was going to ask you about him, of course.
And we're excited to hear more about your journey a little bit tonight, and hopefully bring you on our interview series, Humans of the Multiverse, and get the full Tyrone story as well. So,
moving right onward, quiet on the sun, quiet on the earth. Coincidence? Tectonic activity has been low. Low number of earthquakes in the last 7 days. Weather, on the other hand, there's a lot of weather going on, isn't there, folks?
yeah, I've been at least hearing about it. We're supposed to get
middle U.S. is snowing right now. If you're living in Arkansas, Oklahoma, northern Texas, also looking at Tennessee and Mississippi right now, you're under a heavy snowstorm or something like that. And through the night, it's going to be moving further east. So northern parts of Alabama and Georgia, Tennessee, Carolinas. What's the forecast for you, Dave? You're a little further north from me.
Well, everyone's been saying we're getting blasted with snow and ice tonight and tomorrow, and I don't mean this in a mean way at all when I say that Georgians start acting crazy when it starts to snow a little bit. Because I come from Canada, I lived in South Dakota, I lived in Iowa, and man, these Georgians, they hear a little bit about snow, they start canceling school 2 days ahead of time. They start making a grocery store rush. You can't buy nothing at the grocery store. It's crazy. They don't realize that as soon as the sun comes up to noon, when the sun is on top, huh, Mike? That stuff's gonna melt. It's all good.
So I just checked the forecast for me, and the snow. There was 5 or 10% chance of snow for me, but it's gone down to 0. But like 15% chance of rain in the morning. So,
Tyrone, what are you guys getting?
Let's just say we were supposed to rain. Earlier this morning, according to my wife's phone, it said it was going to rain. When I looked at it on my phone, it just said it was going to be a sunny day. So
we're all at different corners of Georgia right now, but we're supposed to get wet tomorrow. So let's go.
I want to share.
Georgia weather changes so sporadic, and you can't even count on the Weather Channel anymore.
No, not even your phone. My phone's the same thing. You can't count on any channel on TV, that's for sure.
That's a perfect segue, because I don't count on the Weather Channel anymore. I'm about to show y'all one of the new weather channels that I watch on YouTube. It's made by a person just like us three, who's way better at this than I am. Look at me showing one link to the NOAA. I'm about to introduce y'all to Max. This guy's an independent weatherman that does live streams. Let me turn it down. Basically, he's going to show up all the different radar and the latest storm announcements, reading it live. Also running streams you can see in the corner of various storm chasers. I watched this guy cover a tornado outbreak a couple weeks ago. Excellent coverage. So, and he'll even go, like when a hurricane's coming through, he would go to the highway cams on the interstate down in Florida one by one and show the hurricane like going up the highway and stuff. And who needs the Weather Channel when you can get this? This is 10 times as much information and no pharmaceutical advertisements. So, who are you going to watch?
I'm glad you're
saying right now.
I'm glad you said that, though, because like this is the cool thing about this day and age is like the people now own the media. Like we are reporting the news. We are doing the research on the past and reporting that too. The power is to the people now. So I like it. It's exciting times.
Well, that's a big reason why we started this show, is to remind our friends, hey, we're all in control of what we consume, and we can create our own media too if we don't like what's out there.
Yep, and our new our guest today has a podcast of his own. Speaking of creating your own media, did you want to tell us about your channel real quick before we get into the weather?
Yeah, so we were speaking earlier. I love ancient history of all sorts, right? And then it led me to the religion because for some odd reason, most people look outside of ourselves for something that's going to be greater than us to help us get us to a better place, right? So religion is a big part, and no matter if you talk about ancient civilization, religion is going to pop up. I mean, we've all been in enough X spaces to know that anytime you have any type of subject, somebody's going to bring up religion. So I wanted to know as much as possible. So we talked about this earlier. I created my website about 4.5 years ago with one article, and it's where it's at right now, rebirthoftheword.com. Then I decided to say, hey, well, not everybody can read because there are blind people, right? Maybe they can only hear things. and maybe somebody will be able to help them, give them information where they can sit back and listen to somebody speak. So I was like, well, maybe let me take everything that I wrote on my website and put it on my YouTube. And then I started adding new things to my website and more information. So, people who are blind, but who can listen, hear information, because they won't be able to read all the books that I have, right? A lot of the books that I have are not available for people who read in Braille. I believe that's the word that's how it's said. I actually did a small article on Braille too, because I feel like that's a perfect example of ancient history and how we make everyone aware around us aware of information that we want to give. Just like you said earlier, I can't remember which one of you guys said it earlier, but like if we wanted to create our own media, we can do our own thing. Well, I got tired of people sharing misinformation that's not actually in the ancient text. So when somebody said there's something in the ancient text, I wanted to read it for myself. If they can read it, I can read it, right?
That's right.
So I wanted to be able to have that opportunity. So I bought the books and read the books and stuff like that. And when I started finding out that people weren't sharing the right information, that's when I was like, okay, what can I do about it as a person? Well, I can share what is actually written and I can show it, being cautious of the fair usage law in America, right? Everything you do, you have to be on the thin line, because people will try to shut you down by any means necessary. Well, that's why I always talk everything that I share, and I also put it on my website. And that's what brought me to writing a book. About 3 or 4 articles into my website, I was given an opportunity, and my book is where it's at right now, where it's in the publishing phase, and it's going to be out in a few months. And it wasn't something that I wanted to do as far as writing a book. I just wanted to be able to express myself without somebody shutting me down. So if YouTube shut down my YouTube channel and all this other stuff, Rumble wants to shut down my stuff like that, I have my important stuff on my hard drives. And I can just go ahead and put it on my website or wherever, and I can upload it again and just wait till it does. It's just whether people want to listen to the actual facts or whether they want to continue to be deceived. And most people, from what I understand, is they only go towards what makes them feel good.
Yeah. So the website's like a sort of a, for lack of a better phrase, it's sort of breaking out of the matrix, right? It's like, showing the other side of the coin.
Well, exactly, and I elaborate what you mean on that. From what I understand, the coin is hidden when you have it on one side, right? You have to pick it up and flip it over to see it. Okay, that means you have to do your due diligence to stop being lazy, pick that coin up, look it up from the other side, and be like, hey, wait a minute, it is tails on the other side. It wasn't ever double heads, right? And that's where due diligence comes into play. You have to go into, actually, if somebody tells you that, hey, that coin is double heads, you won't know until you pick it up and look at it. And then when you see that it's tails, you know that you can no longer trust that person. Now, if that person would have said, hey, I was mistaken, now you can be like, okay, all right, no problem, because you was mistaken. I actually found out the truth. And one of the things that both me and you are in the military, one of the things that I like to harp on a lot is trust but verify. I trust what you say. I got to verify what you say now, because my life is on the line. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what you say. I have to trust myself. I have to trust you, but I have to verify, because you could have made a mistake. And if you made a mistake, I'm going to ask you to verify my stuff too. So I'm going to ask you to go back and look at my stuff. And I just felt like that was more efficient, because, and honestly, whenever I did being in the military, we did a counseling statement. We gave it to whoever was in charge of us to look at it. They would look at it. We would go back and look at it, and we would ask them to look at it again just to verify. And that was sending emails and anything. You had somebody QC in your work. So that's what I felt like. And my favorite character is Batman. He's the greatest detective in the world, right? That means you're going to dig deep and try and learn everything that everybody says, right? You're going to learn everything is out there, and that's what I did. I treated it like a detective. They spend hours and hours researching their stuff. So now I have to feel like if I'm wanting to know about something, I have to know about the basics. So that means I got to spend hours and hours researching that stuff.
That's right. All right, Dave, what's next?
You were doing the weather, right? Sorry, I interrupted.
That's done.
Okay, my bad. So next on the list is we are going to check out our Eyes on the Sky.
Is there a surprise on today's show?
There is, but first I'm going to do my Eyes on the Sky.
Can't wait to find out about it.
Yeah, no, there is, but first I'm going to do my Eyes on the Sky. Typically, we like to keep in mind that we are in a cosmic environment, okay? And we like to keep in mind that we do not live on a static planet here. So this is our NASA asteroid watch. I'm going to go ahead and speed things up because I figured out a pretty cool effect here. We're going to zoom in on the Earth, and we're going to watch a bunch of asteroids pass by the planet. Hold on one second. So all these bad boys are closing in on Earth. Actually, no, they already did. Hold on one sec. Either way, hopefully this is running. It doesn't look like it's working properly.
Hey, I like how y'all got this set up, man. That's good that y'all got a team going on, because this does make it easier. Doing all this stuff by yourself.
There we go.
Oh my God, man.
I had to refresh that, guys. So these are the top 5 asteroids that are close to the Earth. You can actually speed this thing up. And thanks for your comments there, Tyrone. It's not easy to do this, especially when we're just kind of making it up as we go along. Mike and I are still pretty new at this, but these are the top 5 asteroids that are close to Earth. We got yeah, I think we're way behind here. I got to go backwards to make these bad boys run past Earth. So we're going to go back in time now. I thought I had this.
Which one of these bad boys is Nibiru?
None of them, but we can talk about Nibiru here soon. So this is what I wanted to show you. We're going backwards in time, but these top 5 asteroids really come close to Earth's orbit. And it's a pretty cool effect because you can kind of change the orbital plane here. You can speed it up. You can slow it down. You can watch it from different angles. Now we're going to watch it go really right past Earth here. It's wild that they've got a live computer just doing this for us right now, but let's go. Where are we at, Earth? So I just always like showing stuff like this because I just like people to be aware and keep in mind that we are, we're in a cosmic shooting gallery, as Graham Hancock would say. So I'm going to stop sharing that.
I got another quick hit. This was a video of Gavin Newsom talking about the wildfires today.
Yes. The firefighter in this block, they left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large
they're trying to take
fires,
this a little out of
whether
context.
it be pipe, electricity.
He said the local folks are going to have to figure this out, as if this is a terrible thing to say. But, it's a problem over there right now. Speaking of the opposite problem, Saudi Arabia had a really big rainstorm this past week. Terrible flooding. Yeah.
Jeez.
All right, I think you see what's going on there.
So we got
everybody's okay in all those areas.
So we got wildfires in Los Angeles, and we got flooding in Saudi Arabia.
Back on our first episode of the show, we had talked about how the Sahara Desert had flooded earlier this summer, remember?
Yeah, you're talking about
And then I think also it was drought in the Amazon rainforest. Anyway, we just try to keep an eye on things because we live on a planet, It's the only one we got right now.
Yeah, the only one that we know of that we got right now.
Yeah, true story. I just was thinking about those fires and thinking I don't know, man. It seems to catch on fire in that state. I used to live in San Diego.
Yeah, how close to that were you? You lived in San Diego for a while.
Yeah, well, I lived in Oceanside, right by the military base, and I don't remember specifically, but like there'd be like times where you'd be driving by, and like there'd be a mountain in the distance just on fire, and everyone's just driving to work and stuff. There was a time where the Palomar Mountain caught on fire, but I think they managed to protect the observatory. There's a massive observatory on Palomar Mountain. But yeah, not to go conspiracy, but have you guys heard any like weird conspiracies about these fires yet? Or
Yeah, I heard so many. I heard one of them was they trying to cover up the underground tunnels and stuff like that, and I was like, come on, man, like destroying something. Yeah, you know. But California has always had these fires, and I'm not even from there. Or the only time I've been there was when I was in NCC. But you know, I heard that's a normal thing over there, and sometimes it's going to be worse than others. Just like a hurricane and tornado in the same places that they're supposed to be at. You know what I mean? It's not always going to be the same. You know, New Orleans. You know, hell, just what we had happened to us just this year. You know, on the coastlines.
yeah, it's interesting to hear that perspective, because like, with the news being like, and information being so like, you can go on X at any time and hear a bunch of different opinions about everything. With the news nowadays, and with stuff like that, you can get all kinds of misinformation and crappy conspiracy theories coming out of the woodworks. I've heard stuff like they're burning evidence for the Diddy files and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, you're right, man. Sometimes, wildfires happen in California, it don't have to be.
I mean, just think about it. They wrote myths about these, man. These are the type of myths that sound extraordinary, that they want people to remember for a certain time. This is not something that's new. We've had these happen to us so many times, to the point where I can just imagine 1,000, 2,000 years from here. I mean, just think about just New Orleans, what happened over there. Just think about the myth that's going to come into there. Just look at the story that changed from the first day that it happened to what it is today right now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What is next on the show?
So how long have you been YouTubing, Tyrone?
Man, so I've had my YouTube channel for a couple of years, but I've only gotten serious probably like in the last year.
Okay.
Like I said, I wanted to help people that were blind, and then I wanted to make things interesting because, for some reason, everybody wants to see who they're talking to. It's not the golden age of the 90s or the 80s, 70s, 60s, or wherever, or below, where people are on the radio and you won't see them. Now people want to see your mannerisms, right? And I'm not sure how often you guys really follow me, but I'm very vocal about calling people a certain word when I feel like they're sharing something that's idiotic, right? Like I'm like, okay, it takes a lot of time. As I feel like everybody who does something like what we do will have somebody that can relate to them, and not everybody can do what we can do. Some people, it took me a while to get used to talking on the mic, man. I remember back in the days, bro, I used to be trying to record a video, and I'll try to say a 2 or 3 word sentence, and I have to record that thing over 40 times because I couldn't get it right. I sounded nervous and scared and this, that, and the third. And now I'm at the point where I'm doing live shows where it's just natural now, because I feel comfortable about doing something that I enjoy. And not only something that I enjoy, but actually making a difference, because I've actually witnessed people say, hey, I'm actually going to buy this book. And that's all I promote, is just reading. I mean, whether it's right or wrong, or whatever you want to think of it, if you say that you want to know what a word is, you're going to pick up a dictionary. And I always keep dictionaries right next to my computer, because I don't want to use what somebody's personal opinion of what a word is, or my personal opinion of what a word is. I want to know what is academically accepted, so that way there's no your word against my word. How can I make my argument from what this dictionary says? If I can't make an argument from what this word is presented to me in this fashion and form, then I don't know the material well enough, and I need to go back and figure out what I need to figure out to make that point.
That's cool what you said about sorry, I got interrupted. That's cool what you said about inspiring other people to look into it for themselves and to find things out for themselves, because I have so many wide variety of interests that I really don't have time to fully run out every idea, every topic, every, you know, every segment myself. But I hope on the show, if we share a little bit of this and share a little bit of that, it'll inspire some of the viewers to look into it. And then maybe a few weeks or a few months later, somebody calls in and says, hey, I heard about this on your show and I looked into it and I found this out. And me and Dave will say, hey, that's more than we know about it. Come on the show and let's talk about it. That's kind of what we're hoping to build up with this enterprise. And it seems to be working so far, because we're finding other people who do the same thing as us. Our friend Ricardo, I think, told us about you, who we met a few weeks ago. So this is great.
Yeah, I did a podcast discussion with him a couple of months ago. We're supposed to do another one on Nibiru. And it's only because, you know, no matter what I read, something other than from what we know of what we understand as our, how can I say it, existence, is there's something outside of us that helped us get there. And, you know, it's just, these theories are just so important to me, because it just, you know, I'm mixed with so many different things. I did a DNA test on what I am, and I found out that, of course, I have Nigerian in me. I know I look Hispanic, but I'm not. I have Nigerian in me. I have my mom is German and Turkish. Then I have Japanese, Italian, and so on and so forth. So it's just like, man, I have all these different things, and I love history. So I need to learn about, if I want to know who I am, I got to know, you know, all these parts of my heritage, of its history. And that's where it came into being interesting and stuff like that. Like, you know, oh man, are all these guys literally the same, or is it just a representation of ourselves?
Tyrone, is there a like a memory, like, of being very young where you first realized you were into history and ancient history and yeah?
Oh yeah. So ever since I can remember as a little kid, I've always been interested in history. I never really picked up books. I know I promote reading books like crazy, but I never really read books. I watched documentaries. I guess I was lazy at that time, and that's where I can see my growth is, from watching documentaries to actually reading the material for myself. So ever since I was a little kid, I was so interested in history. So I would, you know, sometimes if I couldn't sleep at night, or if I was waiting for, if I was sick or something like that, and I couldn't really focus on anything else, I would, you know, pick up one of my books and read, you know, the science or the history parts, because it was so interesting, you know. And then, like, with the aliens and stuff like that, I was, you know, when the Phoenix Lights happened, I think it was in March 13th, 1997, if I'm not mistaken. I was like, oh man, what if aliens are real, you know? But, you know, nobody was really, you know, serious about getting to the truth to that. And then when I learned that, what's the guy's name from Escape to LA?
Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell, yeah. He's seen it. The first one that actually reported it, right? And I was like, oh wow.
And he went through a Stargate, right? So he knows what he's looking
at. Yes, he did.
Yeah, so it was like, okay. And then, you know, I heard about Travis Walton, you know, the fire in the sky, you know, about how, you know, I can't tell somebody what they experience. Who am I to tell somebody what they experience? You know, just because I didn't experience doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just wasn't my experience. That's their experience, right? So I was like, okay, the Travis Walton thing seems kind of credible, and this, that, and the third. You know, nobody was able to really disprove it. The guy, you know, has these vivid memories and so on and so forth and stuff like that. And then the biggest one that led me on with our history is just knowing that religion. You read the book of Enoch and you hear about the fallen angels, and you read about this, that, and third. But then when you look at the actual text, that what fallen angels mean and this, that, you're like, okay, now what's the more question? And it just gets deeper and deeper. And you're just like, how did these stories come to the point where they are at today? And that's why I was saying earlier, you know, just with the minimum time that we have between our history of today, we have multiple different stories.
That's right. And I like what you said about, sorry. I'm rewinding to what you said. Darn.
You're good. You're good. To piggyback on what you were saying, and Mike, while you recovered there, is I have a similar story. Like when I was like, I don't know, I mean 10 years old or something. I remember waking up in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep and turned on the TV. And that's where I first saw Graham Hancock's Quest for the Lost Civilization. It was like on at 2 a.m. or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it was documentaries that first got me started. And then A neighbor's who was older than me took me to see the Fire in the Sky movie when I was 12. And I remember just walking home from that movie, like, and hearing
that movie
it scared me, but it also like opened my eyes. And I remember just literally looking out my window, like, holy crap. And I, thinking about it. Hey, that I Want to Believe back there, that started on that day, literally. But
no, you're right, because I remember it was around Christmas when I saw that.
It was around Christmas when it was out. It was winter.
Yeah, my pops used to put when Christmas came around, he used to put like Christmas trees up through the Christmas lights on our windows, or a star or whatever. And at a certain time he would come in and turn them off, right? After we fell asleep. Well, I would fake sleep because he would come in, open the door, and turn those shits off, and I would go back in and turn them right back because I was so scared. It really frightened me because, and I went back and watched it as a kid, and I can really see how some of this stuff could possibly happen to some people. And I read Carl Sagan's book. He has a couple of books that talks about this stuff, and it's very interesting that when I came to understanding different perceptions from other people, is that everybody has their own experience. Now, this is why I said that it's their experience, and who am I to tell them what they experienced? Because as I got older, my mom told me that when I was a little kid that I'm actually going to do a podcast with her. She said that when I was a little kid in the crib, that she seen something over my crib. And she freaked out. My pops came in there. They grabbed me out of there and brought me in their room, put a cross on the top of the door, right, and closed the door and stuff. To me, that just makes me, I don't remember any of it, but for my mom to tell me that, it's like, okay, who am I to tell my parents what they experienced? It happened to me, and ever since I've been alive, certain things, happened to me where I was just like, can I question that, right? You don't want to sound crazy because people look at you crazy, but then, you'll go to church every Sunday, and if you actually read the Bible, the stories that have happened to me or any other individuals is no different than what's in the Bible, right? Ezekiel seen something come out the sky that had, this mysterious wheel that he talked about. Jacob seen 70-something angels come from the ladder, right?
That reminds me exactly what I was gonna say. What you had said earlier.
Moses seen a burning bush, man. Like, come on, man. Like, if I was to go to somebody right now and say, yo, I was in my backyard and I seen a burning bush and they was talking to me, how crazy would that sound if I was to tell somebody that? That wouldn't fly over to too many people.
Yep.
Whether you really religious or not, I'm not trying to bash or make any point about this like as a negative thing. What I'm trying to say is, can I say the same thing that was said thousands of years ago and get away with it, and most people believing? No, most people would just count that as
so eyewitness testimony is considered valid in a court of law. A reputable witness who provides eyewitness testimony is that's accepted in our legal system. However, the scientific system or scientific rigor, if you can't have that's where it gets funny, right? They say, well, it's just an eyewitness testimony. There could have been this or that happening. Is it repeatable? Can you reproduce those elements? And here's my thing. Before we fully understood electromagnetism, we couldn't manipulate it. We couldn't reproduce repeatable results because we didn't understand what we were manipulating. Now we understand electromagnetism. We can perform these little experiments with nice repeatable results. Who's to say there isn't some other further thing that we see glimpses of, we see glimmers of, people know that they're seeing it, they're providing eyewitness testimony of it, but we haven't been able to quantify it properly, dimensionalize it properly. And that's why we can't repeat it. We don't fully understand it yet. You got to be able to fully understand something and manipulate it to design these nice, tidy little experiments. That's just me riffing on eyewitness testimony, validity of eyewitness testimony.
I give you one better, man. I look at it like gravity. Everybody says gravity is scientific, right? It's a scientific theory. It's something that's a fact. Let me tell you something. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that if something's heavier than air, it's going to fall on the ground. I don't need an apple to hit me on the top of the head to understand that there's a gravity, right? Okay. I can understand the complexity of what comes with gravity, but to sit here and tell me that an apple hits me on the top of the head, I don't need to know that. I know that since day one, if I drop the fork from the top of the table, it's going to fall on the ground. I don't need anything else to prove that to me. Now, whether what gravity actually is, that's where the complexity comes into play. Everybody has their little theories and this, that, and the third. But all I have to do is just pick up something that's heavier than air and it will drop. That's all I need to do. Right. So the complexity is when everybody wants to come in there and bring their own narrative, their own theories, and this, that. Somebody might listen to me and say, I'm a physicist and I'm this, that, and the third, and all this other stuff. And I'd be like, but let me tell you, how can I prove that gravity exists? Like I said, all I have to do is just pick something that's heavier and just drop it. That's it. That's what I will call it.
Knowledge.
Okay, now the complexity comes into the play of it.
The knowledge, it comes from direct firsthand experience. We don't have to believe that 2 + 2 = 4. We know because we've experienced 2 + 2 = 4.
Well, Terrence Howard came in there and messed up a lot of that stuff with that numbers. But like the point is that if I was blind, I couldn't see a 2, and I couldn't see a plus, and I couldn't see a 2, right? So I would have to physically have some kind of relationship with that. What I do know that is I can feel when I'm falling out the sky. Your body feels that regardless. Everybody's body have felt that. It is just that feeling that you get when you're in an airplane, you close your eyes, you can feel the pressure.
Roller coasters, even if you're driving over a hill too fast, you didn't realize the hill drops. Yeah.
Yeah, you can feel it. It has some kind of relation with trying to tug you back to the ground. Whatever complexity you want to play on that's what you do. You have the PhD. I'm just telling you, all I gotta do is just pick something up and drop it, and there it goes. That's it.
Well, that's a good way of looking at it, because the simple fact of gravity, you don't have to overanalyze it. Very good point.
Yeah, you don't have to. You already know it's there. Now, whatever it does with that, with what outside of that, that's when you get in the complexity and the PhD and the inner works with that. But I guarantee you that if I learned the same systems that you have, I could probably figure it out probably just as well as you, or probably faster. You never know. Why do you have to have that feeling that well, this is what it's been this whole time? Well, maybe this whole time we may have to look at it differently, because like I said, all I have to do is just pick something up and drop it, and that's it. And not even drop it, it drops itself. So I don't have to go into the complexity.
I think that's a good segue actually into my SpaceX defying gravity segment of the show. I usually like to show just what SpaceX is doing weekly, just because it's pretty awesome if you watch it in 4K. So we're going to do that now.
Hey, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Lil Vibe. I see he did the fire out there. Hey, that dude has some really good music that has to do a lot with history. He is very, very, very knowledgeable. He actually takes a lot of times when I share whatever book that I'm reading that has some kind of information on there, he actually have read another book that actually verifies and gives credentials to what I said, or credibility to what I said from
who's that again?
So he's a really good Lil Vibe. He's on
okay, cool. Yeah, shout out Little Vibe. I think he actually commented on our post earlier as well and followed us. So thanks a lot, Little Vibe.
Always got to give him a shout out, man. He has really, like, if you want to know anything about history and listen to some music with it,
I'm glad you said that. That's actually a good segue into the next segment. But first, I'm going to do my SpaceX anyway. But we like to include a little bit of music on Humans of the Multiverse, but we'll get there in a second. I just wanted to show the most recent Starlink launch because it's pretty badass. And I usually just it's 17 minutes, but I usually fast forward to right before T minus. There we go. Let's go. And maybe you can do the last minute. Have you ever seen one of these live? You live on the coast. They usually do them down south in Alabama. Tyrone, you ever seen one of these live?
Yeah, I've seen them live. I actually want to go down there and take my camera down there. I have a P950 Nikon that I want to take down there and use. It's a telephoto.
We need to make that a group trip then, because Mike and I have we want to go down and get some content as well and see some of these launches. So in person. I just love watching this stuff on video, but like I just imagine how awe-inspiring it is in person. And we got 10 seconds to go. This is them launching a Starlink. For those who don't know, the Starlinks are the Starlink satellites. They connect global internet.
Ignition. Liftoff. Go Falcon.
Let's go.
So they send one of these off every.
They're
so
sending
often,
one of
huh?
these off weekly. It seems like.
Oh, weekly?
Yep. And last week they sent off one that I forget the name of the mission, but they're like these tiny ones that are supposed to help connect these ones even better. If I'm mistaken, if somebody's in the chat, please. But they sent out a bunch of tiny ones last week that are supposed to kind of bridge the gap between the distance between these ones, which is even crazy to think about.
Now, do they catch all the solid boosters now? When they return, when they fall, or was that just one or two for show?
I don't know off the top of my head, Mike, but that's a good question. So we watched one, I think in their first or second episode, where the one where they caught the thing. I think that was just an initial test, and they're still working on that technology. I do not think they catch all of these. No, it's too complicated. So yeah, Elon pressing forward on his mission to occupy Mars, and yeah, this stuff just always blows my mind because I just like keeping in mind that we have the cosmic perspective. I took astronomy 101 in my undergrad, and the title of the book that I still have upstairs is The Cosmic Perspective. And I always kept that in mind, man.
Is that a curvature?
Looks like it. Looks like the Earth is possibly not flat. I'm going to go ahead and stop that, but I just love showing that stuff. And we mentioned Little Vibe and music and ancient history. We're going to have a little, and Little Vibe can participate in the chat if he wants. But we're going to have a little. It's a game show I invented this afternoon that's going to lead into our next segment called War Sucks. And so the game show is, let's go ahead and move there now. Boom. Multimedia group.
This is a new feature of Mike and Dave's Multiverse in the year 2025. A game show. Lucky you. You tuned in on what, our 11th show? We're busting out a game show segment.
Yeah.
Who expected that?
Keep the music going. Keep the music going, but just turn it down a little. So we got Multiverse Media Groups. I just made this up literally a couple hours ago. So Multiverse Music Moments, all right? It's going to be Mike versus Tyrone in the first round of Multiverse Media Groups Prevents Multiverse Music Moments, okay? Here are the rules. We're going to pick a number between 1 and 40. I already rolled 2 20-sided D&D dice and came up with a number that that's somewhere in between 1 and 40. So I want both of you guys to pick, and let's let Little Vibe participate too. Everyone pick a number between 1 and 40. Whoever gets it's going to go first.
32.
32. Okay, we got 32. Tyrone? 26. Little Vibe, you in there?
Yeah.
You playing? Give him a couple seconds to go. So we said 32 and 26. What did he say? I can't see. 7. Okay, Little Vibe wins, so Little Vibe gets to go first. We're gonna add we're doing this on the fly, so we're gonna add a third player to the rule set. So player 1 gets first guess at the first line. It's a line of a song, by the way. And then we alternate to player 2. If player 1 can't guess, they have to pass. Or you get one, you can ask for one hint, which has to be a yes or no question on your turn. You can only have one hint per song. Okay, we're going to do 3 songs. And then if we're going to alternate to player 2, if player 1 doesn't get the song, then if player 3 doesn't get the song, I'm going to give you another line of the song. Make sense? And then we're going to repeat until I'm going to keep revealing lines of the song until somebody gets it. The player who guesses the song correctly gets 1 point. Person who wins gets best 2 out of 3. Each player can ask a yes or no question, like I said, but you only have one yes or no question per song. And if you can't guess, you're forced to pass to the next person. So the next closest was Tyrone. So we're going to go Little Vibe, Tyrone, and then Mike in that order. All right. And if we don't remember the rules, I'll remind you as we go. And hit the music if you can't go louder. If you can't make the music quiet, because I like the music.
It finished.
Keep letting it go. First line, another head hangs lowly. And Little Vibe, you're up. Can you guess what song? And if not, you have one question. You have one yes or no hint question. It's the lyric, another head hangs lowly. You can pass, you can ask for a hint, or you can save that, or you can guess. Pass. All right, Tyrone, what do you got? I tried to make the genres broad, as well as the time frames. You're running out of time. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to pass or ask a yes or no question. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
Pass. How about pass? How about pass?
Mike, you're up.
Pass. I have no idea.
Nobody wants to use their question. All right. Another head hangs lowly. Child is slowly taken. It's a Little Vibe. You're up. Waiting on Little Vibe. I'm gonna give one hint to the group. It's for all three songs. The theme is War Sucks. Hit the music. Let's go.
I don't know the name of the song.
Another head hangs lowly, not another hand hangs lowly. Another head hangs lowly. That's what happens when you invent a game show this afternoon.
Show us another line.
All right. Next line, we're moving.
Is it zombies?
Ah, boom. Tyrone got it. Another head hangs lowly, child is slowly taken, and the violence causes silence.
Zombies by the Cranberries.
Who are we mistaken? Yep. So Tyrone's got one up. All right, we're going to round 2. Let's go. All right. Next song, first line. Mike, you're up. Mike, you're up. Now that the war is through with me.
Yes or no question.
Okay, ask a yes or no question.
Is this from the beginning of the song?
Yes.
Pass.
I think we're at Little Vibe. Now that the war is through with me, and it's the first line of the song. Hit the music. Hit the music. Super Nintendo. All right, I'm going to give Little Vibe another 5-10 seconds. I'm going to turn it to Tyrone. Anyone else in the chat can throw one out too if you want. All right. Next. I'm waking up, I cannot see.
It'll be Metallica.
It's one. It's one by Metallica.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the beginning of the song. I thought that was from the end of the song.
Yeah,
he got it. And he passed. All right. And now that the war is through with me, I'm waking up, I cannot see. That there's not much left of me. Nothing is real but pain now.
Myself. I thought that came from the end of the song.
I thought you had it, bro. I thought you were on it.
I did have it. I should have. Yeah. I second guessed myself.
All right.
Next.
I'm going to go. The next one, I'm going to give No, I'm not going to give any hints. This one should be a little harder, but this one should be a little harder. And so Tyrone got that, I think, as well. It's up 2-0, but so he wins. But here we go, round 3. Not food, not homes, not shoes. Not homes, not shoes. So, Mike, you're up.
I don't know this one.
You have a yes or no question if you want.
Skip.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I should have left that one. Oh, well, I gave up another line. Not need, just feed the war, cannibal animal. Little vibe. Give you 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Tyrone, what do you got? Pass.
Bulls on Parade by
Man,
Rage
he's on fire.
There you go.
So for me, this is the hardest line in Bar's history. I'm going to read it for you right now. And it's a good lead into our next segment. Weapons, not food, not homes, not shoes, not need, just feed the war, cannibal animal eye, walk the corner to the rubble that used to be the library, line up to the mine cemetery now. What we don't know keeps the contracts alive and moving. They don't got to burn the books. They just remove them while arms warehouses fill as quick as the cells. Rally round your family, pocket full of shells. So that's the first ever game show. It was slightly poorly executed on Mike and Dave's Multiverse Live, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. What'd you guys think of that?
Hey, man. Consistency is what matters, and comfort means the most.
Agreed. So I'm going to go back to the welcome screen, and that kind of leads me into my little bit of, there's one thing I don't like about war, and it's the most, and it's war profiteering, okay? I don't like people who knowingly profit off of war. It's not my fave, and so I'm going to poop on some people that do that, and let's go. All right, so this is just an article from Sludge in 2020. It's actually from prospect.org, taken from Sludge. I'm just going to read a short
What's the title of it?
clip. Yeah, the title is The Members of Congress Who Profit from War, prospect.org. I'm just going to read a little excerpt from this. It was shortly after midnight in Baghdad on Friday, January 3rd, when a missile strike ordered by President Trump killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. When stock markets opened the next day, dozens of members of Congress saw bumps in their portfolios as their holdings in defense contractors like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon increased in value on the possibility of war. Over the next 3 trading days, the leading defense industry stock index would surge 2.4% above Thursday's close. So that's a conflict of interest, wouldn't you guys say?
Nah.
Huh? Is that the most obvious conflict of interest of all time? Or am I, or is that just me? I don't talk a lot about my combat experience or anything like that, but the one thing I will say is as I switch to another channel or switch to another screen is when I got to Iraq, I quickly realized that we weren't looking for WMDs. We were, fulfilling military contracts that were
What were you looking for?
signed by our government. Okay. And I didn't know the full extent of that, but when I got home, I really dug into it. It really pissed me off. And so I don't talk about it much like in person or privately or anything. So this is kind of a weird, I was in a weird mood today when I saw this article. So we're going to check this out. These are the most active Pentagon contractor stock traders in 2024. We got Republican Josh Gottmeyer. He seems like the OG of this.
The rest of the chain, yeah, he's got all the missiles going on.
Yeah, and check this out. Doesn't he have what do you guys notice about this? That he's the number. He's profited more from investing in basically weapons manufacturing than any other person in Congress. What do you guys notice about this picture?
He's making sure that he got veterans
Yeah,
there.
exactly. And so I just wanted to show his face and show how slimy that is. Let's go back to, sorry guys, just doing this on the fly. Share this tab instead. We got obviously Nancy Pelosi's there. If that's a surprise, I'm sorry. We've got Suzanne Delbean on there as well. I wanted to pull up her biography quick. I believe she's a Democrat from Washington. Yep. And yeah, these people are profiting off of blood.
So this is a bipartisan support. This is an issue that has strong bipartisan support, right? That Congress people from both sides of the aisle should be free to profit as they will off of any conflicts that may take place across the greater globe.
This is very much a bipartisan segment, so I wanted to show this guy as well. He's number 4, Scott Franklin, and he's a Republican. The top 3 were Democrats, but it's all over the map. All these people are investing in war. I wanted to go back to the line from Rage Against the Machine's Bulls on Parade. That whole, so Rage Against the Machine back in the 90s was considered radical left, okay? Now they'd be considered radical right. And the reason why I want to point that out is because I don't think there's a radical anything. This is just me riffing. But I think that all these people are responsible for all this stuff, and so I don't like being gaslit about war. I don't like being lied to. Somebody's talking. Is that my dang? Oh, that's funny. That's my SpaceX thing was still going. But yeah, that's just it. I don't know. That's all I got for that segment. But I don't know.
Hey, when was that article published, Dave? That article you pulled up a minute ago.
Oh, 2024, bro.
Refresh.
Let me share. It was published in 2024 anyway. December 25th, 2024. So a couple weeks ago. And
that reminded me of a really old book that I got. It's almost 100 years older than that article, but it's about the exact same topic. I'm going to show it on the screen here. It's called War is a Racket. This book was written by a retired Army general named Smedley Butler, published in 1935. And it basically describes all the profiteering going on around the globe, starting in the late 1800s by American corporate interests up through and including World War I and into the 20s with various other conflicts in Europe. And so that's it. And that's that, folks. History repeats itself. Maybe it hasn't even stopped going on in this case.
Agreed. And like we said, this is a bipartisan show. We're not going left or right on this. And actually the article from 2020 had more Republicans profiting off of war than Democrats. Just happened to be flipped this time.
Okay, I looked up several of those lists. When you said you wanted to do this on the show, I looked up some myself. I wonder how any of these news outlets could get a complete list. It seems like some of these Congress people would be hiding it. Some of them are missing like major players that I know that like, okay, they ought to be up here in the top of the list. So just taking a cursory look, there's a lot of lists out there.
Yeah, that's true. And, they might have family members or they might be invested in some kind of portfolio that's
maybe
investing
they have
in
connections to say, hey, pull my name out of that list before you publish it. And that's how they get out of half the list,
Yeah. Tyrone, as a veteran of the United States Army, combat veteran, you ever reckon with this kind of thing?
All this stuff right here, man, just knowing about history, this stuff has been going on forever. There's really no way we can change it. There's nobody that's going to change that because the mass individuals who are in charge with the monetary gains that they get from this is not going to let it change. We don't have enough people who work together enough to make a change. You can look at you guys are talking about Democratic or Republicans. I go back to history and look at the Sumerians and the Akkadians. they were once an individual group of individuals, but then Sargon decided to make the groups into one. And that's why you have the Akkadian Empire, right? And then so on and so forth. Individuals took over from their points of views and so on and so forth. So it's always going to be somebody taking over. It's going to eventually be somebody that's good in charge, and it's going to be eventually be somebody that's bad in charge, like Hitler, for example. And he's not going to be the last one. Right now we got the president of Korea right now, right? That's still going on, right? So it's never going to change. I know a lot of people say if you know history, you won't repeat it, but yes, you will repeat it. You'll just repeat it in a strategical way because you know what didn't work before.
That actually feels like a good lead-in for you to talk about your book, Journey Through the Origins of Time. You've got a book coming out, huh? Can you tell us like how that got started and what we can expect from that?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I started my website about 4.5 years ago, and about 3 or 4 articles in, I was given a chance from Ken Goodsworth. I did a couple of podcast discussions with him. He's also an author, but he also owns a publishing company. And he was like, "I like what you share, and I enjoy the deep research that you have." This was before the YouTube and all this stuff. And he said, "If you ever wanted to publish a book, just let me know." Well, I started to think that one day my website is no longer going to be there. One day I'm going to pass on, and the money is not going to be able to go into that book or to that website, right? It's eventually just going to end, right? The money is no longer going to be able to go there. Eventually, it doesn't matter what time frame it is, it's going to end, right? So I was like, well, I learned a lot of stuff. I read a lot of stuff. I have shared a lot of stuff. Why don't I just take what's on my website and put it into a book and give it more in-depth information about it? And that's exactly what I did. I took a lot of what I've already written in my website and gave a more detailed explanation of what I learned. For instance, I give you an example. Most people, when they think about aliens or extraterrestrials or UFOs and stuff like that, they usually also follow what are known as the Anunnaki and them coming from a different planet. Well, none of that is actually in the
That's
ancient
exactly
text.
where I wanted to ask you about Zechariah Sitchin. So I'm interested in the ancient Sumerian. I'm interested in their origin stories. And I understand that Zechariah Sitchin is an English. He was an economist. Basically, he had a day job, but he was fascinated as well and made his own translations of those ancient texts. How close is any of that? Is it highly sensationalized? A lot of people know the story of the Anunnaki and think that that's what the Sumerians were all about. Is Zechariah putting another layer of filter on top of that for us?
Well, it's interesting you say that because, like I said earlier, if you can read it, I should be able to read it, right? And he had given some of his sources, right? And I actually looked into his sources. I'm not sure if he knew about the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature and how in depth it was, but there's a lot of information. Let me put it like this: if you have information about something that you are trying to share with somebody and you want somebody to believe you, the first thing you're going to do is provide proof. If you say you can't provide that proof, it's going to be very hard for somebody to believe you. Now, out of all the text that's out there, none of the texts actually say that the Anunnaki came from a planet Nibiru. Actually, the actual texts actually say they came from the depths of the sea, which means that's why you get the fish gods, right? You don't get fish from the sky. You get birds from the sky. You get fish from the seas. Now, the Oxford Handbook book actually says that they come from the seas. And that's what's interesting to me is because, okay, let's just say that they came from the seas. That can be another way of saying inner earth. That could be another way of saying hollow earth. That can be a whole nother way of saying an anti-gravity type earth, right? Because water creates a symbol type of less gravity. But, it still sinks to the ground eventually, but at times the gases and so on and so forth, it makes it float. So there's certain things that require, but the point is that you can come up with different things, but if the actual text says that they come from the seas, that's what I'm going to believe. Now, if you say that they came from a different planet, show me the text that says that. Then I can say, okay, this is what this person said and this is what they shared. Now, I do know that Zechariah Sitchin says in his books that he was given opportunities to read cuneiforms that wasn't generally given to other people. Now that's where you get the what if part, right? Like, what if he was able to get these cuneiform tablets and do it? But then this comes into play. With all the ways that you've been doing presentations since day one, why haven't you taught any of your people or anyone close to you how to read the same text you have? Why haven't you started your own school for that? So people can actually read the text for yourself, because that's the missing link to me. Because like I said, I've done an actual podcast, 10 of them actually, with somebody that was a student and a friend of Zachariah Sitchin. And I can tell you, and there's no shame in my game, and shouldn't be any shame in his game, because it's on my podcast. I asked him specifically, do you know about the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature? And he said no. So how do you know about Zachariah Sitchin's information, but not what the actual academia means? Meaning that not only that, he is a PhD recipient. So that means you have to be academically able to prove what you say, and that he wasn't able to do that. So it's not a shot out. It's not trying to shoot them down. It's just that if you can read it, I should be able to read it.
And I think there's room for that in what you talked about earlier, being interested from a young age. Authors like Zachariah Sitchin are often people's introduction into that realm or that world. And I know for me personally, sometimes it's like, you spend a few years looking into something, you look back, the very first source that I had that got me started on this, now I know enough to see that, okay, that was a little bit fluffier there. So maybe there's room for him in that realm, but I see what you're saying.
Well, see, the only source that he gives is cylinder seal VA243. And that's the cylinder seal that has the little 12 little dots with the sun or 11 little dots in the sun in the middle. Well, that's not accurately depicted. I don't know why people say that's accurately depicted, but that's not accurately depicted. And not only that, if you look at the tablet, like, I've never been able to see this with my personal eyes, and nobody's ever answered this question. But if you look in the middle of that cylinder seal VA243, you will see what looks like another little circle thing, and that can be like a 13th dot. It's just so many different things that people look into. But then when you look at the inscriptions that Dr. Michael S. Heiser deciphered and translated and gave to the public on his website, itchingiswrong.com. Yeah, it's crazy. You got to be really mad and angry at somebody for sharing something so absurd like what Zachariah Sitchin shared to make a website called itchingiswrong.com, right? That's what Dr. Michael S. Heiser did. And it was because he got tired of all the misinformation. But he actually he actually tells you what cylinder seal VA243 is, and he gives you the actual text. He was actually the person that I learned where ETCSL was from, Electronic Text Corpus of Sumerian Literature. So if Zachariah Sitchin wasn't able to give me that and give me a source for that, then why would I believe what he says? If somebody's able to provide to me something like that, then like Dr. Michael S. Heiser is, then I'm able to go with that. But then when I look at the Oxford Handbook, the book itself, and it tells me that, and you know what, here, I bring it up. I think I have it up on here. Let me show you. So let's see, share screen. I'll bring it up right here for you guys. Here we go. So can you see that?
No. Can you send it? Oh, there.
Can now?
Yeah, there we go. Yep. Yeah, there we go. So this is an actual post that I made from this book. This is the book that I'm talking about, the Oxford Handbook of Cuneiform Literature. You can see I have my dictionaries right there, like I said, the sources, and I love the Simpsons, like I said. And I always try to make a theme out of it, like, yo, this is mind-blowing, right? Like, think about it. This is crazy, right? Like, I try to make it entertaining as much as I can with this history stuff. But it actually says right here, it says, the Mesopotamian tradition, these big fish are the companions of Ea who dwells in the depths of the sea. They regularly emerge from the sea in order to teach mankind the cornerstones of civilization, such as agriculture, kingship, justice, and writing. Before the flood ended their coexistence. And it tells you where to see it at, but this is from the book. This is from this book. So this is what I do on my Twitter page, is I actually take a picture of whatever book it is that I've read, and I go in there and I go whatever paragraphs or whatever it is, and I create my little slideshow to make it interesting, you know, because this is a missing piece of information. I have text that says they came from the depth of the sea. Now show me the text that says that they came from a planet called Nibiru, right? Now I can tell you, let me stop sharing this, but I can tell you from personal experience when you look at Nibiru, Nibiru is only known as a city. And it's not known as a planet. And this
or
is
the
from
11th planet or anything like that.
It's literally named that, and it's also known as Nipper. So my point is that where does it say that now? Billy Carson, you guys know who Billy Carson is, right?
Yeah, I wanted to comment on that quick before you. So sources are important, and I learned this well, obviously I knew this for a long time, but recently that Wesley Huff guy, he's a biblical scholar. He made Billy look pretty bad in a debate because Billy didn't have his sources straight. Had Billy had his sources straight, he might have looked a little better. But sources are important.
Billy's totally a Zachariah Sitchin. I think everybody knew that. He was making fancy videos and books with shiny covers about old texts but he wasn't really providing the sources or teaching anybody how he arrived at all those conclusions. He was just providing flashy material, which attracts some people to find more things out. So,
I came into learning about Billy Carson because, and I'm just going to be honest with you, I never knew anybody that was as dedicated as he was about what he felt like was the Anunnaki. And when I learned that most of his information comes from Zachariah Sitchin, I had to second guess it because Zachariah Sitchin's information isn't correct. Well, I don't try to shut him down or anything like that. He does that to himself. I mean, you can be as rich as you want to be, and you can talk down to people as much as you want to. That's fine. What's facts is facts, and people are going to remember, everything. And you're always going to have followers. I mean, there's serial killers out there that have followers. Do you really want to brag about how many followers do you have? Let's talk about that quality that you're actually doing to help people. And what I mean by that is, okay, I've talked to Billy Carson. I asked him, where does it say the actual text says that the Anunnaki came from Planet Nibiru? I am going to do a video on it. I actually screen recorded his comments so that way if he deletes it, because he's known for deleting stuff to make himself.
So you actually talked to Billy Carson about this?
Well, on Twitter.
Okay, yeah. That's still pretty dope. I'm gonna say I like Billy Carson. I'm not pooping on Billy Carson.
I like
his videos are fun, and he's very passionate, and I like.
I say that too. I say that all the time too. It's his passion. If you're passionate about something, go with it. But don't expect me, the person that I am,
right?
He does those for knowledge
stuff, because he doesn't sugarcoat stuff. He literally called people poor and broken, stuff like that. So you're putting yourself on a high horse about me calling you out as you shouldn't. Do that, and I'm not calling them out for recognition. I don't give a
okay. Now, Tyrone, let's say you go to the mailbox tomorrow and you look inside and there's an envelope and it's from Billy Carson, and you're invited because you've been nominated at one of this year's Forbidden Knowledge Awards.
Oh man,
the Golden Globes for Gaia.
It's so funny you mentioned that, because I actually
I would go.
Won tickets to go to his thing, one of his conscience awards, his second conscience award. I was actually won tickets from him, but they never sent it to me.
Of course.
And I'm not sure, and I actually messaged him and everything. I even messaged him. He messaged me back and he said, "Yeah, you really won them. I can pull them up on here. I don't have no shame in my game. I mean, he already knows this.
Can you pull them up, please? Or would you mind pulling them up?
Yeah.
Let's go hard.
Let me see if I
can pulled up videos of those awards and laughed our rear ends off. But look, if you look, Professor Shock was back there. They invited Dr. Shock to go. He at least showed up and made cordialities with him.
This is coming from somebody I'm telling you, I've spent dozens of hours in the middle of the night watching Billy Carson videos. Okay, not in any serious capacity, but I just really like it. And I like Ancient Aliens. I like all that stuff, but I'm also considering myself a serious person. And so, it's stuff like that you mentioned, known for deleting stuff. Recently, I just found out while you're pulling this up. So I watched Wes Huff on Rogan a couple days ago, who blew up after that Billy Carson quote debate. But I watched him on Rogan, and, according to him, Billy has been sending cease and desist letters to the guy who hosted the podcast, who was his friend, to Wes Huff, to Joe Rogan. He's been sending, and it's like, you got to just, if you were wrong, it's okay, man. Like, it's all right. You know, like
Host really was in over his head. Billy could have roasted the host as far as the host knowledge went.
yeah, the host had no idea what he was in for, and it was really uncomfortable to watch. I'm going to be honest. To watch
10
that
minutes was all you need. Once you get past the first cycle and you're like, okay, I know how this is going to go.
Well, when Homeboy reaches behind him and pulls out a papyri facsimile of like the document that Billy was talking about, you're like, okay, he's in for a roasting.
Well, that's why I like what Tyrone is telling us about paying attention. So we can watch a Billy Carson and call it entertainment, and you're not taking it seriously, but pay attention when people are citing their sources. And if someone's claiming to have an authoritative translation, they better be able to bring the text behind it and prove that they have it. So really good way to discern between good information and bad information.
Hold on. Here we go. Y'all think
no, I don't think you're wrong.
No, I'm not talking about y'all. I'm just talking.
This is for the people. This is for the.
So here we go. So here we go. It says the perfect. This is where I got. This is the text message that I got right here. Right. Let's see. Hold on. We are hook me up. I said to him, forbidden knowledge, or I said, hook me up. Right. We are giving away 20 free tickets to Contest of Words in Miami to blah blah blah. Right. And that's it. That's the thing right here. Right. That's his number. And it says you want to forbidden Contest of Words. And then
I would
here we
go.
go. Look, here we go. Hold on. And it says, "Oh my FG," right? Because that's what I tell. I say it's real, bro. And then look, that's the thing. And there's Billy Carson right there. Yes.
Give away 33 tickets to random fans from our SMS database. Okay. And then no tickets arrived.
No tickets ever. I was supposed to get them in email. I was supposed to fill out. I filled out all the paper, all the stuff that it was on Gmail because they sent you an email and stuff like that, right? And yeah, and I did all that, right? And I'm not even gonna lie. In the middle of it, I was always calling Billy out, like, this is, you got to stop spreading this lies about the Anunnaki, right? And it's not the I'm just calling him out like how he calls other people out, right? And I actually read the same text that he has. I bought his book. I read his book. I'm not somebody that's trying to say he's wrong because I feel like he's wrong. I'm saying you're wrong because I can't find the same text that you said that you came up with what you said, right? Until then I can't believe it, right? Well, but yeah, I was supposed to get these tickets. I ain't never got them. I was actually going to drive down there anyway and do it, but I was like, what if they got me on the block list, right?
Where do they
went up in a suit? That would be so much fun.
So that Wesley Huff guy, I don't remember for those guys, he did an episode on Rogan, but he also did that debate. But he brought out is it the Sinai Bible or something like?
The Sinai Bible.
Yeah, and he really went in depth on that. And like, I'm not an expert on any of this, but like, it really showed that Billy didn't quite understand the context of the document or where that resource even came from. And check your resources, people, or be open to criticism, right?
I'll be honest with you. I wish people would come at me like the way they came at Billy Carson, because I would be live all the time. Like, I would really have a live show because I know my stuff. I would literally do like Wes Hub did and be like, let me go get this book and we're going to have a discussion about it. Because that's what I do. I mean, that's literally what I do. You go through my YouTube, somebody says something, I'm like, let me go grab this book real quick. I have lots of books. I read the same material. I don't even care about being right because all I'm really doing is basing my material off somebody wrote something thousands of years ago. How do I know if they were accurate? How do I know if it's actual forgery or something made up just because somebody else said it and it carried on forever and ever? Come on, let's be honest with each other. How many times will we be fooled if we allow that to happen to us? So for me, all I want to know is like I said, if the Anunnaki, and this is an example, if the Anunnaki came from planet Nibiru, give me a source that says that I can read like you've read it. Okay, if you can't provide that, then I am no longer going to repeat that, and I'm going to call you out until I get that information. Now, Billy Carson actually said the Enuma Elish says that. Well, I'm not an idiot person. I've been working with computers since I was a little kid. And I know that you can pull up any document on the computer or your iPhone or Android, because Android or iPhones, if you click the little three dots on the bottom, you can find a page and you pull up any document. But if you pull up any document on any digital device, it has something where you can look up the words and it'll find every word that's in that document. Well, I can go to sacred-text.com, get a copy of the Enuma Elish, hit Control F on my computer, type in Nibru or whatever way you want to spell it, and see how many times it's written in there. And it's only written in there one time in the Enuma Elish. And it has nothing to do with the planet that orbits our sun every 3,600 years that the Anunnaki came from. Now, I can look that up for myself. Now, I have my due diligence and on my coin. Now, I talked about how flipping over the coin on the other side is hidden. I have to do my due diligence to pick that coin up, look over, turn it over, and see what's on the other side. And that's where I can say for a fact that if people actually just looked at the sources for themselves and read it, they'll be like, okay, and stop trying to. One thing that I try to explain to people is, it's like going into a museum. You don't want to go to a museum and somebody tells you what to look at when you're looking at the pictures. You want to be able to look at that picture and come up to your own conclusion, and then have possibly a conversation afterwards, right? But you don't want to go up there and walk up to a picture and be like, hey, this picture is supposed to mean this, that, and the third, because that's going to put an automatic information in your head that wasn't supposed to be there. You're supposed to be able to go into that museum, look at that picture or that art or whatever it is, and decide what it means to you. Then have a conversation and it means what it means to everybody after that.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on the museum thing. You know, I think I do that naturally, like in museums and stuff. I go and look at stuff first, and then if I feel like I got to read what they're telling me it means, I will go. But a lot of times I just, go in raw.
Yeah, it's the second perspective to say, okay, I see it like this, but maybe possibly it could mean this, and I won't get that other until I read somebody else's perspective. You can be like, oh wait, maybe let me put two to two together and see what we all say, right? And it's even like with the movie. Who wants to go to the movies and somebody tell them what they're going to see before they go to the movie and see it for themselves? It won't hit you the same.
That's why I don't watch commercials or trailers, but we are going to watch one. Speaking of trailers, we're going to watch one about a movie you were talking about. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my Uncle Bob in Florida who just hopped in the chat. What up, Uncle Bob? How's it going? Mike, did you have something to say? Sorry. You were leaning in like you did, and I threw in that. I wanted to watch that trailer live of that Transcendence movie you mentioned earlier before we started. We were having a discussion before the podcast started about extending human life and transferring human consciousness into technology. And Tyrone said the best movie that explains that, I guess, besides the show Futurama, is this. So we're gonna go watch this trailer quick. Hopefully I don't get copyrighted for this. Fair use.
Please welcome my partner in science and in life, Dr. Will Castor.
The path to building superintelligence requires us to unlock the most fundamental secrets of the universe. Imagine a machine with a full range of human emotion. Its analytical power will be greater than the collective intelligence of every person in the history of the world. Some scientists refer to this as the singularity. Professor? I call it transcendence.
A series of attacks conducted by a radical anti-tech group known as Rift.
They hit AI labs all over the country. We lost decades of research and development.
It's radiation poisoning. The bullet must have been laced with it. The effect is irreversible.
Will's body is dying, but his mind is a pattern of electrical signals. We can upload his consciousness. We can save him.
Not like this. Assuming that this works, if we missed anything, a thought, a childhood memory, how will you know who you're dealing with?
Evelyn.
Oh my God.
I can't feel anything.
I'm here.
You need to get me online. I need more power.
It may be intelligent, may even be sentient. This is not well. Shut it down.
Shut it down! It's him!
Your friends crossed the line. They don't know the danger.
This is astounding.
So how do we fight it?
You can't. An AI is like any intelligence. It has needs. The real will die. It will start to evolve.
Where's the machine?
To influence. Perhaps the entire world.
Where are you going?
Everywhere.
Oh, y'all gonna like that movie? I'm telling y'all, everything that that they talking about right now, you're gonna be like, what the heck?
Yeah, science fiction has a way to.
And it's crazy that movie didn't make it that.
I never even heard of it, to be perfectly honest. But science fiction has a way of being prophetic, and so I'm probably going to watch that tonight. You seen that, Mike?
Well, you.
And if you think that AI was scary, just wait until the Roomba segment at the end of the show.
For sure, for sure. And that movie was definitely ahead of its time, because if you notice, everything that's coming out now, new movies, new shows, is like you're about killer robot nannies and like stuff like that. It's all like not so distant future AI related, like scary horror stuff. It's coming out on Netflix like crazy.
The original AI movie was The Terminator and Terminator 2.
Yeah, I agreed. Terminator 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time. I've probably seen it 50 times.
Speaking of that, while we're on movies and while we're on mind links, I don't have a link pulled up for this or anything, but Total Recall, the old movie with Arnold, that's a thing now. They got Total Recall, and it's not like FDA approved at all, but they're trying to sell it to people to like reduce their court sentences. They'll replace your memories so you're not a criminal anymore and stuff.
I know
somebody.
They try.
Really?
Yeah. It'll take me a moment. In the last year, I saw a link of this. It's not approved, but some rich people are trying to see if it'll.
We're not far away from Minority Report, where they got pre-crime detectives busting you before you even do anything. Anybody ever? That's one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. If you've never seen Minority Report with Tom Cruise, it's a good one. But I think I'm going to watch that Transcendence tonight. We were talking about Nibiru, though. If we wanted to wait for, I don't know, like whatever planet is orbiting whatever the 10th planet is, you're going to need to live a long time. So we're going to need some kind of life extender. What's weird is that I think that we, being in our 30s and 40s, actually live kind of right on the edge of when that technology is going to be readily available, when human lifespan is going to be able to be extended for like quite some time. They say David Sinclair, who's the lead, you can check out his book, but he's got a book on all this, but the leading person in longevity research, he said that the first person to live to be 150 is already alive today. So
I've also heard that basically we're getting close, but so far, each year that's gone by, we've added slightly less than a year of life expectancy. But basically, when that ratio goes above 1, and when we figure out how to gain 2 years of life expectancy in the next year, and it takes off from there. Look at it that way.
Yeah. Tyrone, you were mentioning that you wanted to live forever. What are you waiting for? What do you want to see? What do you most look forward to seeing in the future?
I'm just waiting for that approval that they did for that Transcendence in that movie.
The book by David Sinclair, thanks Brittany, is called Lifespan: Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to. It's a pretty good one. Time is a weird thing that like I don't think humans have a really good like grasp on. Like we see the world in like our sort of day-to-day perspective, and it's difficult for most people to even step outside of what they what they had for breakfast on Tuesday. So I always find it funny when like people, and especially archaeologists, not that I'm pooping on archaeologists anyway, they do really important work, but when they sort of conceptualize time as if they're a person that lives in that time. And it brings me to the next part of the show that I wanted to show from the past. We like to do the future and the past on the show. And I'm gonna show you guys a video from one of my favorite YouTubers called Praveen Mohan. I actually met Praveen at Cosmic Summit 2024. Mike and I were walking into the Cosmic Summit 2024. Let me make that large.
Y'all going to it this
We
year?
are, yeah. We're going. We are going. Are you?
Too.
Cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm
the Georgia contingent represent.
We'll pick up Randall Carlson along the way. He's up in Atlanta.
Yeah, he lives in Atlanta. Maybe the four of us can road trip. But
that would be dope.
Yeah, it would be. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so I wanted to show Praveen. Yeah, I met Praveen at Cosmic Summit. So that on Friday nights before the summit begins, last year they had a disco dance party. I don't know if it's going to be the same theme or whatever. But Mike and I rolled into this place. We had just met in the elevator like a few hours earlier. And then we rolled in this disco dance party. And as we're walking by, Mike's like, there's Praveen Mohan. And I've probably watched like every single one of his videos. So I was like a little bit starstruck like as soon as we walked in, but we got to hang out for a second. I got to tell him how cool I thought his videos were. And this was one of the videos that really got me into his videos, and also showed me this place called Kailasa Temple, which I don't think gets a lot of love. I'm going to keep the sound down while I play this so we can kind of, I'm going to not have
world
but have it down a little bit.
Temple. Built this amazing structure. By the end of this video, I hope you will agree with me that our history is completely wrong, and that this temple was built by a very advanced.
Oops, sorry. Just trying to get it a low volume.
Special about this temple. This temple was not constructed by adding stone blocks, but an entire mountain was carved to create this temple. This is the only
That's so stupid.
In the whole world where a mountain was cut out from the top to create a structure. In all other temples and caves, even in Ellora and rest of the world, the rock was cut from the front and carved as they went along. The whole world has followed a rock cutting technique called cut-in monolith, while Kailasa Temple is the only one that has used the exact opposite technique called cut-out monolith. To see why this rock cutting technique is so different, let's take a look at this pillar that's over 100 feet tall. Notice how small human beings look when compared to this pillar. Normally, to create such a huge pillar, it would take years of work carving accurately on a huge rock. But this pillar was carved by scooping out all the pieces of the mountain around it. You can imagine.
Okay, I'm gonna pause on that. So
incredible construction techniques. How did they do it?
Yeah, exactly. And this, to me, this site rivals Giza, Teotihuacan. It rivals Angkor Wat. It rivals Göbekli Tepe in like difficulty and like man hours. He's going to get into. Praveen, go ahead and make sure to check out his whole video. I'm going to keep playing it in the background, but pause it as we riff on this a bit. They look at that elephant, the monolith, the stairs, all the carvings in the wall.
Three Where's Waldos in that scene. 3 striped shirts.
Right. Yeah. There's literally carved from top down. Okay. This is one monolith. Okay. Carved from top down. 400,000 tons of rock was scooped out. 400,000 tons of rock. They have no idea where the rock is. Like, you'd think there'd be like a pile of rocks somewhere, but it's if the rocks were like just destroyed or whatever. I don't even know. But when I first found out about this site, I was like, how come people don't talk about this as on side with Giza and that kind of thing? So the reason why I even bring this up is because I wanted to ask both of you guys a question. What do you guys think is the GOAT or the greatest of all time ancient site? I've got like a top 4. My Mount Rushmores are Giza, Teotihuacan, Angkor Wat, and this place, Kailasa Temple. Those are my 4 GOATs of ancient sites.
Man, I could add a whole bunch, man. I can't stick with one. Everyone has their own.
Toss out one that I didn't say then. What one really just blows your mind?
Well, the oldest pyramids are supposed to be the ones in Peru, so I definitely want to see those.
Yeah. And there's pyramids everywhere. China, which like they're massive.
Bosnia.
Yeah, and also in there's a country in Africa right next to Egypt. There's a bunch. What country is it? God damn it. Sudan. Yeah. There's a bunch of small pyramids there.
That's where there are more pyramids there than there are in Egypt.
Yeah, there's literally more pyramids in Sudan than there is in Egypt. Mike,
this just reminded me of something that I was intrigued by, but I didn't have the time to fully look into. There's these 2 similar temples. One of them's in Japan. I'm trying to remember where the other one is. I remember it might be in South America. It's way the heck away from Japan. These 2 temples are like surprisingly identical with just the way they're built. Is that ringing a bell with either of you?
It is. Brittany, if you're listening, go on to RN Voigt, if that's how you say it. He's got a picture of that he posted in the last few days. It's a like picture of 4 different sites that have very similar building technique. It's a site in Japan, the Sacsayhuaman in Peru, as well as the Sage Wall in Montana. Shout out Wandering Wolf if you're watching for all the work he's done at Sage Wall. And then there's another one.
That's the one I'm remembering, but
I'm going to stop sharing. But if you can find that, that's what we find, guys, is similar building techniques on these ancient sites that seem to have been built on top of by more recent civilizations. We find that stuff all over the world, and most people don't know that.
Yeah. Well, if you look at all the civilizations from around the world, they all started around the same time. The only reason why most people give the Sumerians the credibility of being the first civilization is because of their writing system. But they started with a pictographic script, which you can find pictographic scripts that go back 30, 40 to 100 to a couple 100,000 years, just depending on what you consider a pictographic script. Well, guess what? Emojis are a type of pictographic script. It's a picture that would tell a story. Depending on the interpretation of the 2 people between the story and what that emoji means is how they agree or speak to each other. So
come full circle in our writing communication ability.
Yeah, that's what we're doing now. Most people, there are people who only use emojis to talk at certain points.
Pictographics are really more descriptive, and you can cover a wider variety of things with pictographics.
Yep.
Brittany said it was different sites between Peru and Turkey, but she said you can't put the picture in there.
You want to talk about modest?
But yeah, the similarities. I believe the similarities is all from one special group of people. Mm-hmm. If we look at the masonry back then to what it is today, only a certain group of people could do that because of their fortunate ways of having money and an ability to be taken care of and so on and so forth, right? So these individuals probably went from place to place. There was expert boaters, there were expert hunters, expert fishermen. There was experts for everything. So why wouldn't there be an expert for making bricks and stones and so on and so forth? Mm-hmm. It wasn't until everybody was later on until they were able to teach other people on how to do it. So, and let's really think about it. Is our houses really any different than the house in Europe? No, not really. We know that they got 4 walls and a roof, right? And a foundation, right? Everything else in between is just aesthetics. Now, imagine if every one of us had the ability to create our own house, right? Back then, when you built your own house, and all three of us in this room right now will build our own house in the ancient times,
right?
And it would be aesthetically to our own eyes, right? Mm-hmm. So. it would look similar because we would see things that would work from each other. Like if you're stood up and during a certain type of storm, and you had these type of, you know, whatever kind of way you built it, I would look at your stuff and be like, okay, I can add to it, but I shouldn't take away, right? Because once you start taking away, you get a house that's demolished after a while. So, you know, the aesthetics is what comes into play. And then, you know, like if I could build my own house right now, it would probably be something that wouldn't be normally seen around this neighborhood. I actually want a black house. I actually want to spray paint my whole house black from the bricks because it looks really, it sticks out from other people. It'll be like, yo, this is the house for this
It's gonna
neighborhood.
get so hot though. All that solar radiation is gonna be soaking it up.
But yeah, but that's what I'm saying, that I can see from that perspective. If I had that ability to, I would be able to, you know, looking at the Peru and Egypt, the stone. I mean, you can only work with stone, but so many different ways. There ain't but that many ways you can work with it.
If you were to like speculate, how the heck did they fit these together, like different shapes and sizes, perfectly like that?
You know, I've done a lot of research on that, and I've learned that you can melt stone, even granite, using certain type of sunlight. I've read that Fresno glass is one of the ways. You can do casting. I don't know if they took stones. You can, you know, take the magma or the lava that comes from the volcano and shape that, and it will go into a type of stone, right?
Yeah.
Who's the guy with the natron theory that they were sort of mixing together this stuff and then casting stones? I can't remember his name.
There's a lot of people out there. We just don't do that because there's a lot of risk involved, and there's simpler ways of doing it now. Why would we do something that's hard? Back then, you know, that it might have been important to have that stuff because they were in the middle of nowhere, right? They needed protection, and they worked together as a team to get that done.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, because you know, a lot of the argument about like how did they do this and why did they all do it the same in these different places is that, like, where the argument against that is like, why would they do it? Why would they do something so difficult if they could just easily make a house the way we do now? Like, why would they melt stone or like mold magma or something? And I always hear that it's supposed to be for a reason, right? It's functional, it's purposeful, right? And so you're saying that the function and the purpose really isn't that complicated. It's just for protection and longevity and having a building that lasts forever, right?
We see it that what they did is hard because we have the technology that we have today. With the technology that they had to do that, it was easy for them to make it. That's why they were able to make it. I don't see anything extraterrestrial or anything that comes from something being so intelligent to do it. It just takes time and money. That's what most people fail to realize, is that most of this stuff all this stuff can be done with enough time and money. You know, you always hear people saying, you know, I can't find somebody that can replicate this, or they'll have a hard time replicating it. Okay, offer their ass about $1 million to replicate it and see what happens. I guarantee you somebody will replicate that for $1 million.
What about that Kailasa temple? I just don't see how anybody would replicate that thing.
Well,
you got a
spaceship
with a laser printer or something.
You got to look at it as a not being done in a time frame that you would think it would be done. It could be done in a time frame so far as, okay, this generation did this, and then somebody said, hey, let me add on to this.
Right.
Let me add on to this later, or then let me add on to this. You know, that's how a lot of our stuff happens, is that people adding on to what we've already done. Look at the first car to what we drive today. People added on to it because the technology got better. When I read the Holy Bible or the Septuagint, I read that they had iron tools. When I read other ancient texts, I read that they had iron tools. The one tool that is always missing and always argument is whether they had iron tools or not. Well, we know that they did. So now stop arguing about that and just apply that to what we have. Yeah, there's going to be, the time frame and certain things don't add up, and this, that, and the third. But that they're looking at it from somebody that's seen it thousands of years later.
Right.
Unfortunately, one of the things that's different between the ancient texts. Well, I'm glad you taught us about these repositories where we can find this stuff for ourselves and read read for ourselves. You can go back and read text. You can't go back and watch people construct anything. Therein
No, you
lies.
can just take what they use. Point example, the pyramids. Everybody says, from what I see, is that we have no idea. Jimmy Corsetti says we have no idea how the pyramids were built, which is a full-fledged lie. Herodotus says in his books that he gives a specific way of how the pyramids were built. Now, whether it happened that way or not, he is the first indicator of what the pyramids happened. If anybody truly wants to see if it's true or not, they would take what Herodotus says, since he is the first person to actually say that and apply his methods to doing it. Now, the problem is nobody wants to come up with the money to do that. Like I said, I guarantee you we can create the pyramids as long as we have the money for it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Somebody's going to do it. Especially with the technology that we have today. I actually did a rant on Jimmy Corsetti because on Rumble. I started a Rumble page because I wanted to do a rant where I could be more vocal about some of the stuff that I see that people are sharing.
Is it the same Rebirth of the Word on Rumble, just for the audience?
Yeah. Well, it's Knights of the Word. I changed. I'm actually going to change it because it's something new that I just wanted to try on. But I don't really promote it. It's just something for me to keep in the records because it's just something that I wanted to keep. But he always shows on there that with the modern technology we wouldn't be able to build the pyramids, and he shows these little clips about bulldozers not being able to take the rocks and this, that, and the third. We didn't have bulldozers thousands of years ago, but we did have mammoths and elephants, right? And now, yes, there is no actual text that says mammoths and elephants were used, but what ancient text actually tells us how the pyramids were built? Well, there's only a few texts, right? Some of the hieroglyphs that shows that they used sleds to move the stones, and 2 is the Diary of Mer, right? Now, there's not that much that actually gives you context of how they did it, but if I was to think logically, and I wanted to use something other than modern technology to do something, I would use what I would have on this planet. I know mammoths and elephants can actually do that. I actually did a little short video on this a couple of days ago.
If you want to show it, go for it.
Let me see if I can find it.
I'm going to read real quick so you always hear people say, oh, there's no record of how they built the pyramids. I've heard that 100 times. And then I did a quick Google, and it says Herodotus said he said the Egyptians built the pyramids by first creating a stepped structure like stairs and then using machines made of short wooden planks to lift stones from the ground to the first step, then transferring them to another machine on the next step, and so on, gradually raising the stones to their final position, with the top of the pyramid being completed first and working downwards to the base. I mean, that makes a little bit of sense in my head. I just, like I was saying earlier about humans' concepts of time, it's hard. And then archaeologists are always trying to, for example, Kailasa Temple was supposed to be built in 17 to 20 years. The Great Pyramid, what was it, supposed to be 27 years, something like that. I feel like archaeologists, they need to jam a time frame taken to build. But I have a feeling if they're not way older than we think they are, then they were taking a lot longer to build.
Hey, pull this up. I just do the share screen. This is from Herodotus' book.
I gotta stop sharing mine.
This is from my Kindle. This is what the old Kindle that I had. I'm actually trying to give this one away for somebody that follows me on YouTube, answer some of the questions that I share. So I'm actually giving this Kindle out for free.
Are you screen sharing something?
Yep.
I don't see it. Yep. I'm not seeing it this time.
Here we go.
No.
All right. So this is Herodotus' book, The Complete Works to Histories. And he gives it a complete description of how the pyramids were built. He says they worked in gangs of 100,000 men, each gang for 3 months. For 10 years, the people wore themselves out building a road over which the stones were dragged, work which was, in my opinion, not much lighter at all than the building of the pyramid. For the road is nearly a mile long and 20 yards wide, and elevated at its highest to a height of 16 yards, and is all of stone polished and carved with figures. The aforesaid 10 years went to the building of this road, and of the underground chambers in the hill where the pyramids stand. These the king meant to the burial place for himself, and surrounded them with water, bringing in a channel from the Nile. The pyramid itself was 20 years in the making. Its base is square, each side 100 feet long, and its height is the same. The whole is of the stone, polished, most exactly fitted. There is no block of less than 30 feet in length, 1.25. That's just where it tells you where to find it at for more information. Then it goes on to say this pyramid was made like stairs, like you were talking about, which some call steps and others tiers. When this is its first form was completed, the workmen used short wooden logs as levers to raise the rest of the stones. They heaved up the blocks from the ground onto the tier of steps. When the stone had been raised, it was set on another level that stood on the first tier, and the lever again and used to lift it from the first tier to the next. It may be that there was a new lever on each tier of steps, or perhaps there was only one lever, quite portable, which they carried up to each tier in turn. I leave this uncertain as both possibilities were mentioned, but this is certain that the upper part of the pyramid was finished off first, then the last below it, and last above the base and the lowest part. There are writings on the pyramid in Egyptian characters indicating how much was spent on radishes and onions and garlic for the workmen, and I'm sure that when he read me the writings, the interpreter said that 1,600 talents of silver had been paid. Now, if that is so, how much must have been spent on the iron? So it actually talks about this. So this is from his books. This is from the ancient text. So we can literally, with all our AI abilities and everything that we have, ability to our hand, these people who are like Jimmy Corsetti, who talks about the 1 million followers that they have on YouTube, or Billy Carson that talks about how broke people are and how rich he is, he has the ability to go and buy any of these superb programs. Like I think it's Suno.com that just came out, that has that good old AI that's supposed to be doing things. You can buy these programs, do this stuff, type in what's actually written in the ancient text and says, hey, create this model for us.
Has Jimmy Corsetti ever addressed this Herodotus stuff, like in public?
He does, but he says that he doesn't. He does, but then he doesn't really say anything about it. Like he says he's aware of it, but he doesn't think that it should go any further than that.
So can I ask? So Herodotus was Greek, and when was he around? Let me look that up.
I'm going to bring out the.
So 5th century BCE. So how does he know how they did it 2,000 years before he was alive?
That's a good question.
I've heard mixed reviews on Herodotus' accounts of Egypt, that some of the tales that he brought back from there were sensationalized or fictionalized. And
I think that's
more obvious than others, but I haven't studied his works myself enough to know.
Me neither.
He's one of the earliest sources, the earliest basically Europeans, a Greek who explored Egypt and came back and wrote a report. But yeah.
Now, this is a video that I created because I don't have the funds like Billy Carson or Jimmy Corsetti.
This is still pretty cool.
I don't have 1 million followers, and I'm not rich like Billy Carson. I'm throwing that out there because that's how they present themselves, right? That's how they present themselves. Now, if I had the money that they had, I could definitely create a program. So what I did was I went to I have Wondershare Filmora, right? And I went in there and I took a picture. I asked AI to create a picture of elephants and mammoths for me. And I asked it to create stones and stuff like that. And this is the closest I could get. And I asked it to kind of, see how they would move it, right? And we know that mammoths are bigger than elephants. And I know this looks like elephants. Like I said, I don't have the money like they do, right? If I had the money they do, I could create better content. But this is just a simple way of me saying that we do have an idea. This is the simplest way that I can say that we have an idea by showing, that we got elephants and mammoths or whatever. One side is bigger than other, and they're able to move these stones with the help of humans because humans are taming them. Now, I'm going to go right here. And this is what I did because, like I said, I don't have the funds, so I try to put it in the words. I said, it is possible to speculate that elephants or their extinct relatives, like mammoths, could have been used to assist in pulling the massive stones for the construction of the ancient Egyptian monuments, right? If they were present in that region at that time. Elephants, particularly Asian elephants, are known for their incredible strength, capable of pulling between 6,000 and 8,000 pounds on flat terrain, and significantly more if the load is placed on wheels or rollers. African elephants, being even larger and stronger, could potentially pull even heavier loads for an average limestone block used in pyramid construction, weighing approximately 2.5 tons, which is about 5,000 pounds. 1 to 2 Asian elephants or 1 African elephant would suffice for pulling heavier blocks, such as the 80-ton, 160,000 pound granite stones in the king's chamber would require coordinated effort by 20 to 25 elephants. Okay?
Imagine trying to herd 25 of those to walk in the same direction at the same time. I mean, how are you going to, the yoke, how are you going to connect all these elephants together?
That's a good point. You do 2 by each other. How many of that is in a row?
That's a whole bunch of elephants. I hope they don't try to go sideways.
So that's where it says, but this is what the science is telling us that what it would require to do that, right?
Right.
Now, or at least
now,
I'm not gonna say
elephants would have been nearby. You could hypothetically go capture a bunch of elephants and bring them over in Africa. Mammoths, maybe not so much, right? Mammoths.
But see, that's 25 for the 160,000 pound granite. The question is how did they get that big ass granite stone in there? Well, it would take 20 to 25 elephants coordinated to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for the limestone to actually build the pyramids, you can use the elephants regularly. 1 or 2 of them can pull a limestone easily, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is not, and I don't mean to say science. I mean to say mathematically. This is what it says mathematically. Now, if I'm able to do this with the little bare minimum amount of money that I have and the little followers that I have, and I'm taking the time to do something, trying to figure out, not just asking stupid questions, but answering that stupid question myself. We're trying to portray something that isn't possible. It is possible. This right here lets us know that this is possible. Okay, this is a quick synopsis of how it's possible. Now we have to take this information mathematically and apply it into the real world. And I guarantee you these people can do it. They have the funds for it. They talk about how broke and poor everybody else is. Well, the poor people are figuring out, take your money and make us happy, right? Because you're asking us questions. We're giving it to you. We're giving you the answers. Now
Billy might have more money, but I think Billy probably still doesn't know nothing about construction, like actually,
But I'm just saying. But see that it's not, and I'm glad you said that because I'm a fisherman and I like how conversations go. So if you know like anything about bass, throwing the bait out there and seeing what comes up is a good thing. So what I mean by that is that Billy Carson, he might not know about construction, but he's always priding himself about finding somebody that can back up what he says. So why not use what Herodotus actually said in his books and apply that? Because you always talk about you're all about the ancient text. Well, this is the ancient text, and it tells us how to do it. It does this. Nothing in this text says anything about aliens. Nothing. Literally, it tells you how humans can do it themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you have more vision for aliens to doing something? If aliens was to build the pyramids the way that they built it, then okay, that's fine. You believe that. But if science is saying that mathematically humans can do it by this way, then what give you the indication that aliens did? If nothing in the ancient text even said that.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I think the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway from what you're saying is that it over the vast period of time, this stuff can get done. Oh shit, my thing is about to die, and it was unplugged the whole time. Woohoo! It takes a vast amount of time and resources. That's why you're saying Billy or some of these other rich people are saying you can't do it. They should use the resources. And I think that was the difference between in ancient Egypt, the people literally believed that the Pharaoh was, a living God and that he commanded this. And so there's a lot of motivation. And if God says, build me this giant thing, then humans can theoretically organize in a way, even with limited technology, to do that. Where I have it's hard for me to wrap my head around is like so that Herodotus stuff. I hadn't read that specifically, so thank you for showing it. But I need like a much more detailed plan than that, because I've seen there's some French scientists who
True. So there's a big difference between proving that ancient culture had access to the horsepower or elephant power, proving that you had access to the motor, to the movement you need to move stones. Okay, you can drag an 80-ton stone 100 yards across the desert. Way to go. Now fit that precisely into between two other precisely cut 70 and 90-ton stones. That's a whole nother ball game. Those elephants are not precision movers. They can get it to the construction site, but good luck getting those elephants to construct the pyramid.
2 million times, over 2 million times. But I think what Tyrone's saying, and
they had the ability to get the materials there, is what that proves. They had access to energy. They didn't need.
That's basically what it is. It gives credence to the idea that they were able to get it there.
Yeah, and that it wasn't aliens.
Yeah, and like I said, the Diary of Myrrh actually tells you how they transported some of these stones. Like it doesn't give you a full detail because the document is deteriorated, but it gives you an idea how humans were able to do it. That's why I said if you can read it, I can read it. If I read the Diary of Myrrh, it tells me how they transported them. Now, scientifically,
sorry, go ahead.
I can type into AI what the ancient text says, at least the oldest person that talks about it, right? And that's Herodotus. So I look at what he says, I type it in, I try to give my visual aspect of idea of what I understand, and AI creates it for me to understand. Now, I'm not the one with the PhD. That's not my realm. I'm just giving you an idea of how something possibly could happen.
Sure. And I think it's important that people keep, they don't put themselves in any particular corner and be super dogmatic about this kind of thing, because no one really knows. If you ask me, I don't include aliens in the building of any of this stuff. It's not my idea. I didn't come up with this, but I just think that civilization is cyclical, and we've grown to high technology that may be similar, may be different than what we currently have today, and that those things are likely much older than we think they are and built by an older version of civilization. I think humans could totally pull that off under the right climatic circumstances, under the right technological circumstance, under the right motivational circumstances. And that's what I was talking about before. God can motivate people to do a lot of stuff. So I think it's possible that humans did that.
I look at it like this, we are smart individuals. I actually wrote an article on this, and I actually put it in my book. If you know about savant syndrome, you know that those are individuals who are smart as hell, but they might have the hardest time buttoning up their shirt and tying their shoes. But they can solve mathematical questions faster than a calculator, or draw a canvas of a city.
Yeah, I've seen that, dude.
So, and anybody that has ever watched Stan Lee's show Superhumans, there were literally individuals who had human-like abilities or godlike abilities that you would look at them and you would be like, what the hell? This is a godlike person. If you look up Stan Lee, look up Superhumans, his show. If you know who Stan Lee is, you know all about the superhumans, the superheroes and all that stuff. So you know that those looked like gods in many cases. And when you watch that show, you're like, wow, this is so amazing. So there's things that people that do on this planet that can do things that people will look like it's a godlike ability. And it's not. It's just a human ability that somebody has something that they were able to do that other people can't do. I mean, I look at savant syndrome like that because everybody talks about how intelligent these beings are that come from different planets, and I'm like, yo, you guys are really shutting down these people who are that have savant syndrome. These people are very intelligent.
Yeah.
They might not be able to build a car, but they can definitely put one together quickly, fast, in a hurry in their mind, in mathematics and all kinds of physics and engineering techniques that you possibly need to build the best car. When you read the ancient texts from the Sumerians, when they were first, the Anunnaki were creating humans, yes, because that's actually in the text. The Anunnaki are responsible for creating humans according to the Sumerians. when you read about them, when they were first creating humans, they were creating humans that had ailments, that were disabled, blind. Some of them couldn't hold their own pee, and so on and so forth. But these gods didn't destroy them. They just found something that they could do something to help out others. So if you was blind, you could probably play music very well. So you was somebody who played music. If you couldn't walk, you was probably somebody who could create the best pottery out there, because all you're doing is sitting in one spot working on pottery, right? You had special gifts, and these gods recognized that and put you in the certain positions for that. It wasn't until later on, when I realized that our civilizations didn't really start to take off until we started cherishing and honoring the people that had these disabilities and these ailments. You got to remember, back in the old days, they used to sacrifice children in their sacrifices, and I guarantee you they weren't the most healthiest, right? They weren't the most healthiest. Why? Because if you have a group of people that needs to live, why would you get rid of the most healthiest, right?
Right.
And I get a good example of that watching the movie 300. Remember, in the beginning of the scene, they were throwing the baby off the cliff. Yeah, that's my example, because we know that from Spartans mythology, they didn't let the weak survive.
So I can see a need for that in hunter-gatherer society, where you got to keep it moving. But I think you're right. They kept doing things like that as for long into our most recent iteration of civilization, until recently, really. They were putting people, like you're saying, with savant syndrome in asylums and stuff like that. Back in the less than 100 years ago, probably. But yeah, there are humans out there with some superhuman abilities, and they definitely existed back then too. Even just like a Brock Lesnar, like a giant person, is technically a superhuman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because his strength and his body, he'd be considered a giant. I was reading. It's funny you say that, because I was just reading the Septuagint. I just got done reading it. Most people, when they read the Septuagint, they read that, or the Bible, I should say, that Goliath was 6 cubits in the span. Well, the Septuagint that I have, it says 4 cubits in the span. So he was much shorter. And 6 cubits in span is anywhere from 9 to 10 feet. Some people say 8 to 7. It varies very much. But if it's anywhere from 7 to 9 feet, then 4 cubits of a span is shorter than that. So that's anywhere from 6 to 7 feet. That's nothing out of abnormal. I mean, we have 7-foot basketball players today, right? So
they're almost all 7 foot. I think the average height is 6'8" right now in the NBA.
So that's nothing that we would think that if I was to stand by him, I would think that was a giant, And if they had the protein and the strength and all that stuff, I mean, Jesus, man, that you can't stop that, I mean, there's big individuals, they might be at times, but they're huge.
Okay, speaking of humans with special capabilities, I don't know if y'all heard the Consumer Electronics Show took place this past week. Did y'all tune into any of that?
I did not. But
I want you to see this robot vacuum with special abilities.
Oh yeah, we're getting to the end now.
Pick up a dirty sock and go put it in a receptacle. I guess if you train it properly.
I'm buying me one of those robots, the iRobots. I'm getting me one.
I got a Roomba, and I'm telling you, I'm always nice to that thing. I always say super polite things to it. I thank it every time it does, because I've seen Terminator, I've seen them all, and I want to be on these things' side when they become sentient. Did you guys ever see that one that he's like talking to the dude, or the dude's talking to the robot, and it's standing in a kitchen, and it's like it asks him questions, and it will pick stuff up out of the bowl. It'll say, "Pick me up a piece of food out of that dish," and it'll decide between like what's a food and what's not, and it'll pick up the right thing and all that stuff. I would have one of those in my house.
I don't know what to think about this robot. When I heard they had a robot that would pick up socks, I was like, wow, this is a beefy Roomba if it's big enough to vacuum up a sock. I had no idea that it had a mechanical extending arm come off the top, manually pick up your sock and separate it from the other things that it's vacuuming up on the ground. So I was actually impressed.
How many socks could you possibly need picked up? I mean, I could see how this being very helpful for somebody like disabled with spinal issues and stuff like that, though.
And there might be a little more to it. You got to train the Roomba to bring him to the right spot. You know, maybe it brings him to the wrong place. I don't know how Roomba training goes.
Jeez.
Next item. This is an electric spoon. So you charge up the spoon, and then you eat stuff with it. And then when the spoon touches your tongue, it shocks your tongue, giving the illusion of salty food. And I'm getting daylight savings time vibes from this one. If you're afraid that your food isn't salty, just pretend like it tastes saltier. I don't know. Shock your tongue with it. I don't have a video on this one, but I don't know.
Well, I must say that the low sodium thing is like some kind of propaganda or something, because none of that is true. Ricardo, if you're watching, this is for you, but we need salt. We need to eat salt.
Yes.
We need lots of salt. Salt is good for you. And a low sodium diet is only for people with very specific medical conditions that I'm not a doctor, so I can't say which ones. But most people need more salt than they actually get. And so the fact that they even invented that spoon is ridiculous to me.
For a long time, I trusted the experts that, salt is evil, salt is bad for you. And so I try to avoid it. And now I will say, you don't need to do everything in excess. Too much salt is a bad thing. But my guitar teacher actually called me out on it one day. I was like, oh, yeah, I do low sodium, this and that. He's like, cut the low sodium out. Eat some salt. If you sweat, if you exercise and sweat, you got to replace all that salt. So very good point. If you're using your body properly, you're going to need to replace that salt. Don't be too worried about low salt. Or if you're not sweating at all, if you're not getting any salt out of your system, don't put it in. It's all about balancing what goes in and out.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. We're hitting about 2 hours and 12 minutes.
I just wanted to cover a little consumer electronics. I didn't actually really follow anything that they offer. I'm not a good consumer, I guess. Oh well.
I like to end it on a funny note anyway, and those two things made me laugh. Tyrone, man, thanks so much for joining the show today.
Oh yeah, definitely. I do this all the time, man. If y'all ever want a historian buff on the show, just let me know.
We will
just listen.
We will definitely bring you on the show, and we also have Tyrone scheduled for an interview, I believe. Do we? I don't even know.
If you want, holler at us sometime, and we can tape an interview. You can tell us your story, how you got into this or that. You can do your stint in the military, and we'll put a little more polish on it. You know what I'm saying? We like to do that.
We do our taped Humans of the Multiverse series that you're totally invited to do if we haven't already. And yeah, you can tell your full story, my man.
Right.
And
we're glad to meet somebody that's local nearby. We can triangulate and hang out sometime.
Yeah, do a live show all at once.
Yeah, Brittany's saying you're scheduled for the.
I'm going to be out there in the Cosmic Summit anyway, so I mean we can go ahead and correlate that stuff now, because I have a podcast track here. We could do y'all show on here. Bring my machine up there, computers and all that stuff too.
Oh, we will for sure bring our gear and do the show up there. I don't know, maybe we can road trip and save some gas money. But if anything, Mike and I are trying to do like a March mound trip. If you're down for something like that, at the very least, we're doing a one-nighter at Moundville, which I think is within driving distance between all of us, so we can maybe do a whole thing like that. But we'll sort that out offline.
Yeah, definitely. Just let me know.
All right, man. Hey, thanks so much.
Thanks for liking and subscribing, everybody, on all our platforms. We're on Spotify now too. Dave got us up and running on Spotify, so if you need Spotify for whatever reason, you can go download one of our shows afterwards.
Yep, and check out Tyrone's website, Rebirth of the Word. He's got a book coming out. He's also on X. He puts a lot of good information on there, and we'll be having him back as a guest. Good night, and thank you so much.
All right, y'all
do it all over again next week.